We are glad you are here. We're letting everyone in from the waiting room. And while we wait, we got some questions on the screen. So we'd love to know your name, where you're joining us from. Hopefully, it's not too freezing where you are. I know most of the country has a big freeze right now, hence my big turtleneck. And we'd love to hear what you are interested in learning today, or if you have any questions, so we can make sure that we cover that. If you are comfortable turning on your screen, we love to actually see faces versus just a name. So that's not required at all, but we would love to see your faces. Hello, hello. I see some people showing us your faces. So welcome. And we'll get started here in a couple minutes. Awesome. We'll get started here in a couple minutes. We're letting people in. So if you can chat your name, where you're coming from, and if you feel comfortable turning on your camera, that's awesome. And we'd love to see what you are interested in learning today. Awesome. Thanks for being here. All right, LSU. My mom works at LSU, and Paige went there. So we
I
like
went to LSU. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. They got a big snow. So you don't have school today, right? Showing up without
No,
school.
I do not have school today. It's amazing.
Hey, well, thanks for being committed and showing up even when you didn't have school. We love it. People joining from Alabama, Georgia, Davidson, Fisk. Awesome. Lemoyne Owen, Tuskegee. We love it. So welcome, welcome. We are going to get started here. My name is Caroline. And I, in the summer, let's see if I can get these slides working. Bloop. Here we go. All right. And I am the summer programs lead for the Memphis Teacher Residency. So I get to help support both of our summer fellowships and both of our awesome summer camps. And we are so glad that you've decided to join us for an hour today to learn more about our programs. We hope you leave today feeling really informed and ready to apply if you think it's right for you. And so please don't feel shy. You can add questions in the chat as we go, and we'll get started. All right. So again, like I said, welcome. Here's some pictures of some of our crews. We hope that you feel like you get a behind the scenes look at our program. So on the left is our literacy fellows, and that they're on Beale Street. So we like you to get to know Memphis, explore the city. And on the right are our STEM fellows, and that is at STEM camp. They are ready for the first day of camp, ready to meet their students. Like I said, I'm Caroline O'Hare. I'm our summer programs lead. You're going to hear from a lot of different people today. This is the agenda. We're going to start off with David Montague, our executive director. He's going to tell you more about the Memphis Teacher Residency, why we exist, what we do. Then we're going to have some breakout rooms. So you do have to choose one of the fellowships that you want to attend because we have so much to cover in a short amount of time. So we have both of our camp coordinators here, Paige and Christy. They're going to tell you about those fellowships. And we also have Michael here to tell you about the residency for those of you who are actually qualified for that instead of a fellowship. At the end, please stick around. We're going to have a raffle for people. We want to get your feedback. And so if you're here at the end and you win the raffle, you'll get an Amazon gift card from us. All right, quick logistics. So if you would, please do two things. All right, first, we want to know who is here, and it's easier if y'all check in. So you should have gotten an email from us that says like, check in, or I don't even know exactly what it says, to be honest, but you can let us know that you are here by checking in. If you're not able to do that, it's not a big deal. The second thing, this is important because Michael's going to be making breakout rooms. Please go ahead and decide which room you'd like to attend and help us by renaming yourself. So the way that you do that is you go to where it says participants, you click over to the right and more options, and you click rename, and you're going to put the letter in front of your name that you want to do it. I saw Matthew already put an L in front of there. Way to go. And so the way that you're going to do that is, like I just said, you click over, rename yourself, but you need to know which program you want to do. So for the STEM fellowship, that's open to current sophomores and juniors, people of color who are majoring or minoring in STEM or STEM education. And then for the literacy fellowship, it's open to sophomores and juniors of any major. And then if you are currently a senior or a graduate student, then you're going to have our residency. You're going to learn about the residency program. So you'd put an R. So STEM, you'll put an S in front of your name, L and literacy and L, and residency and R. And if you have trouble, you can put it in the chat box. But if you can go ahead and try to change your actual name, I see a lot of people have already done that. So thank you for that. All right. And here we go. So we're going to get started with David Montague. He is going to tell us more about MTR, why we exist, our mission and vision, and our history. So I'll pass it off to you, David.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Caroline. Hey, everybody. Again, my name is David Montague. I'm the executive director. Really glad that you're here. So many of you have joined us. It's really encouraging to our staff to have so many people interested in what we're doing. So I'm going to do very quickly, you can go to the next slide. I'm going to do a flyover very quickly to give you a little bit about our history and then some of our distinctives, what we call our 3 we believe statements. So you know sort of a little bit about our DNA and our vibe here.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, so MTR was started back in 2009. So we just finished our 15-year anniversary celebration. We're in our 16th year. We've had 730 residents come through our program, and currently today, literally right now, we have about 250 educators teaching in Memphis high need schools. And then, of course, to this virtual call, we have 2 summer programs in addition to our residency year, and that is MTR Camp that started in 2013, and then our STEM Discovery Camp that started in 2020. So that's a little bit about our background. The next slide, you'll see that in our literacy camp, we've had 265 fellows have joined us over the past 12 years and 65 fellows in our Marjorie Lee Brown STEM Fellowship. So it's a movement. It's a growing movement. And again, glad you're interested to be a part of it. All right, next slide, you'll see one of the ways that we try and define sort of who we are is that we've created or written 3 we believe statements. And so what I'm going to do is just go through each one as quickly as I can to give you some background to that. So we're going to do these one at a time. So the first one, as you can all read, just says that we believe that educational inequality is one of the greatest human and civil rights issues in America today. And this is sort of our collective why. There's an injustice out there, and we have come together and created an organization because we see that there's a deep need in our community. So just a couple of slides that'll show you, give you a picture of what that need looks like, what that issue is, if you will. So this is actually a screenshot of a website. You might find this helpful or interesting even in your undergrad schoolwork right now. But the website is edgap.org. It's a national live interactive map that will do 2 things. One, it gives you underlying demographic information. So the blue color there represents household income. The darker the blue, the higher the income of that neighborhood. And the lighter the blue, the lower the income. And then every circle represents the location of a public high school, and the number inside of that circle represents the average ACT of students. And if you click on the circle, it would be able to give you the name of the school and more information about the school. So again, if you're from Chicago or Baton Rouge or wherever, you can pull this up for your own community. But you can see just at a quick glance that there's a huge academic disparity between the highest performing students and the lowest performing students. Generally, often that is dependent upon the many factors, but one of which is the household income of the neighborhood in which the school is located. And we think this is unfair and unjust for a couple of reasons. One, primarily because the disparity in academic achievement as a child then leads to other disparities or inequalities, which primarily would be opportunities for jobs and incomes and to raise a family above poverty and so forth. And so we want to help be a response to the need that we see in our communities. This is, again, ACT scores. The next slide will give you the same information, but this is for elementary reading scores. So again, every circle is the location, but this is now a location of an elementary school. And then the orange slice of that pie represents the percentage of students at that elementary school who are on grade level. And the white slice represents the percentage of students that are not on grade level at 3rd grade. Excuse me. So you can see in many, many schools in Memphis, the vast majority of students are not on grade level, which is a precursor to college graduation. So if you see a circle with essentially no orange in it, that means most likely almost none of those students will end up attending or graduating from college. And so there's just a huge need in our community, as in many communities, around literacy, around academic achievement in many different areas. And so we want to be a part of that. So that's our big why. There's a huge need, and we want to play a role in that. Now, the next "we believe" sentence is, would somebody do me a favor and volunteer to unmute and read the second "we believe" statement so I don't have to do all the talking here? A brave soul.
We believe that God cares deeply about the spiritual and physical needs of all people. Therefore, God calls and empowers people to go into the world to offer love and seek justice for all.
Great, thank you. So you probably have heard the organization is a faith-based organization. Our mission statement we'll come to. In fact, our next slide is Christian love expressed in equal education. And so this sort of gets at the idea of how we go about our work. And so this is our longer mission statement. It is 43 words, and I won't read the whole thing to you, but you can see in red, we begin with the idea that our work is a response to the gospel, that God calls us to receive his love and then go out into the world and love other people, even with the same love that we would have for ourselves is the love that we should treat other people. And so we're responding to that. We receive that, we appreciate that, we enjoy that, and we respond in obedience to loving our neighbors as ourselves. So that's first part of our mission. The other part is that we want to provide the same or better quality of education to every student. We think it's the Christian contribution to education is that we want to provide the highest quality of education in our city. And here's the kicker, beginning with the most vulnerable. And so that's what we've set out to do for 16 years now, is to provide the highest quality of education, but to make sure that's offered first to those who often live at the margins of society. And how do we go about doing that? We do that through you, the teacher in the classroom or the teacher in the summer camp. Proximity matters. Whoever's closest to a child has the most opportunity for influence. And so the teacher after the family is that person. But that's a lot of words, hard to remember that whole mission statement. So we've narrowed that down to just 6 words. By the way, there's Michael. Shout out to Michael, photo of him in the classroom. But our short mission statement that's much more memorable is just simply Christian love expressed in equal education. So that's the heartbeat of MTR and the how that we go about doing our work. And then finally and lastly, our third "we believe." No, not finally and last. Nia was a resident a couple of years ago. She had a great quote that I appreciate. She said, "Love is the most important thing in the entire world and the only thing that can break down all barriers." I totally believe that, Nia. And so the fact that love is MTR's mission statement had me hook, line, and sinker. And so I appreciate her ownership of that idea. It's a big part of MTR. All right, our last "we believe" statement says that we believe that teaching children is among the most important jobs and noble professions one can enter into for the good of others. And you may not always hear that. You may not always feel that. Other people may not encourage you in the way of teaching. But I want you to hear a counter argument to all of those voices if you have those voices. And that is that there is nothing that is more important in this world than having an opportunity to teach someone how to read or write or count or open up the world to them. And so I want to show you on the next slide. The other day I was reading in Matthew chapter 18, and at the beginning of Matthew 18 is this story about Jesus calling, unless you become like a child, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. And then he ends that little section with this sentence, and he says, "Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me," which is an incredible, like if you think about it, it's an incredible promise where Jesus is saying, when you, out of love for me, enter a classroom and you teach and love and care for a child, then you're actually caring for me, is Jesus is saying. And so when you walk into a classroom, you have an opportunity not just to teach children, but literally God's promise is that you're teaching Jesus when you're doing that. And so what could be, talk about the value and the nobility of being a teacher is wrapped up greatly in this sentence, in this verse. And then we'll go to this note that one of Connor Huey's students wrote to him, that just gives you an idea of what teaching can be, the opportunity that it is, the important opportunity that it is. So I'll read it to you. It just says, "Thank you for being my teacher last year. Even when I was in the class next to yours this year, I could still hear you teach, and I would always miss your teaching. You have been one of my favorite math teachers during my high school years, and I will always hope you know how good of a teacher you are. You always tried making math fun, and I always knew I could ask you any questions, whether it was small or complicated. Thank you for being the teacher that you are, and I wish nothing but the best for you, Jennifer P." Which speaks so much to both the value and importance and the opportunity that the teacher has to impact the child, the student, which means it's noble and important. But the other thing is boy, what a reciprocal joy it is to be able to interact with children like this and have these sorts of relationships and get this in return, is such a joy. So teaching is noble and important, but it's also joyful and rewarding for the teacher themselves. So thank you again for being interested in what we're doing. That's a little bit of our history and story and DNA. And with that, we'll pass you back and let you enjoy the rest of our time together.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
So I hope that everyone has a good idea of why we do the work we do. And we're about to spend some time really getting into the how. And so we're going to do our breakout rooms, like I said, in a second. So a lot of you have already changed your name. Michael's putting everyone in breakout rooms. We love our tech support and Michael working behind the scenes. And so we have another chance to go ahead and add that if you haven't. So go ahead, and if you have not gotten to change your name on Zoom, click over participants and on your name. And then if you toggle over to the right, it'll allow you to say more, and you can put an S if you're interested in learning more about STEM, or an L if you're interested in learning more about the Literacy Fellowship, and an R if you're a senior right now or a college graduate and you want to learn more about our residency program. So once you see that invite to your breakout room, please accept it. Paige will be with our literacy folks. They'll actually stay here. STEM will go to another room, and residency will too. So we'll get started as soon as Michael has them ready to go.
Hey, and I'll just say this real quick. There's a couple of you that'll be joining me in residency, so just give me a moment to just make sure everybody is in the STEM breakout room, and then we'll get going here shortly. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and put that letter next to your name, and get you to there as soon as possible. Thanks.
Awesome. And Michael, I'm glad for the people who don't put letters, I can take over for that when you go to the residency room. So thanks, y'all. I saw a question in the chat. So while we're waiting, Paige already said that she'll answer that soon, which is awesome. But our two fellowships, we have the STEM fellowship that works with middle schoolers. We have the literacy fellowship that works with elementary schoolers. We do, however, have people who have been interested in teaching even high school, and they do our literacy or our STEM fellowship. So you still learn a lot about teaching and basics regardless of what fellowship that you do. All right.
Can we see my screen? Great, awesome. Okay, we are going to dive right in. I know some people will still be joining us here for the next couple of minutes, but we want to make sure we're respecting your time and getting through everything that we need to. My name is Christy. I am the STEM camp coordinator. So if you choose to join us here at STEM camp, I am the lead for that. We're super excited that you're here. While our last few people pop in with us, I would love it if you would share in the chat in one word, what is something you are looking for in a summer program? That question in the chat as well, just in one word. What's something you're looking for in a summer program? A lot of growth, a lot of experience. I love that. To learn, be inspired. Some fun. Well, we hope that you'll find today, as we kind of go through our program basics, that hopefully you would find all of those if you came to join us for STEM. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Now, the first thing to know, I just want to go over quickly the requirements for joining our Marjorie Lee Brown STEM Fellowship. These are mentioned in the big room and will be gone over again. But kind of big picture, the STEM Fellowship is open to college sophomores and juniors who are people of color who are majoring or minoring in a STEM field. Now, we can sometimes be a little flexible or loose with like STEM fields. So if you're not a math or a strict science major, don't worry. There's still a possibility for you, okay? We're also looking for people who are super passionate about education, specifically STEM education, and want to invest in the next generation. We do require a 2.75 GPA, and you do have to have a US citizenship. At this point, we can't sponsor any visas, okay? Now, we are going to watch a short little video. It's like 1 minute. This is our promo video. And I want you to, as you watch, think about one thing you notice and one thing you wonder about the fellowship. You can either just like keep those in your brain or drop them in the chat for us. Are you able to hear that? No sound?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can get that to work. You know what, typically it gives me the opportunity or the like an option to share my audio. I'm going to go ahead and skip this for the sake of time. David was a teeny bit over, so we're going to go on to the next slide. If we can figure it out, I'll come back to this at the end, okay? All right, so we're going to go shift a little bit here into talking about some of the goals of our fellowship. So first and foremost, our fellowship exists to inspire. We started the STEM fellowship because there's a huge need nationwide, but specifically here in Memphis for STEM teachers, specifically teachers of color. We believe that representation matters in the classroom, and we want to help make sure that we're investing in diverse leaders who can come and pave the way for the next generation of STEM leaders. Okay, you can see here some fellows who have actually joined us. So on the right-hand side there, you have Susie and Monty, their current residents here at MTR, teaching in classrooms. And on the left-hand side, you have Raven, who will be joining us next summer for the program as well. We also have a couple of fellows you'll hear from later who were fellows last year and are actually going to rejoin us again this summer and then become part of our residency program. Kind of building this momentum to add to the percentage of teachers in Memphis who are teaching STEM and who are teachers of color. Our second goal of our program is to equip. So in order to kind of explore how education comes together with faith, we are a faith-based organization, and how this plays a role in like the historic and current civil rights movement. Fellows get a private tour of the Civil Rights Museum. You participate in biweekly classes that consist of unpacking historical texts and doing analysis and having conversations with one another about how that plays out in your lives in education today. Now, our final kind of goal of the program is to create. As David said, we believe that all students are image bearers of Christ and deserve a quality education. And here in Memphis, a lot of our summer programs that are offered, specifically the ones that are free to our students, are for remediation. They're focused on catching them up in reading, catching them up in math, catching them up in whatever kind of they're falling behind in. We saw an opportunity there. And so our program is actually meant to be a challenge for our campers. This is an opportunity to push them in STEM, in math, and science to pursue and kind of see themselves as coders, engineers, future mathematicians. So they get their hands-on science experiments, hands-on labs. They do a lot of problem solving, critical thinking. We try to do that all in a collaborative way. We do focus pretty highly on math skills because those math skills have been shown to be an indicator and an inhibiting factor of anybody wanting to enter the STEM field later on. Now, how do we do this? We know that education is really hard work. Whether you enter it through a program like MTR or you enter it through your your work at school. It is tough work, and we think that it's best done in community. So fellows get the opportunity to build relationships with each other, with their mentors, and with their leaders. And our hope would be that if you chose to come back, that would be kind of like a bedrock for building this community, and working together, learning, growing, and making an impact together. You'll also receive a lot of training and teaching while you're here. So the very first week, if you choose to join us, the full first week is our orientation week. This is a week of training and orientation. This is for you to learn what camp is, to get some basic teaching, like theory, basic teaching skills, to practice it, to learn about social emotional learning. Some of that, if you're an education major, may be redundant, but we do have a lot of ed majors who come and say, hey, I've never even heard of this stuff that you're talking about. So that first week is really to get you prepared to then lead camp. During camp, you're mentored by a veteran teacher. These are teachers who have taught in Memphis for 5 or more years and who are currently teaching in classrooms in math or science. That mentor is there for you all the time. And as you go, as you progress through the camp process, you'll take over more and more of autonomy in the classroom. So you'll get the opportunity to learn, to be taught, to be poured into as camp goes. Additionally, kind of finally on the teaching and training, at the end of each camp day, we have professional development 2 days a week. That's you meeting with your fellows to learn, to kind of like tweak your practice, kind of reflect on how it's going at camp, how you're doing as a teacher, and to learn little strategies and tips to get better. The other 2 days are when we really focus on that faith in the movement, the civil rights connection, where you meet together with Dexter, our fellows lead, to have professional development with them. Now, compensation, you're not going to come to Memphis for a full month for free. We understand that. So our fellows are given a $2,500 total for the fellowship. This includes a living stipend and the fellowship award. You do have housing once you get here. We kind of say it's your responsibility to get here, but we try our best to take care of you once you're here. You stay on campus. You can see this building here. This is Centennial Place on the University of Memphis's campus. We have suite style living. So all of our female fellows are in one suite in double occupancy rooms. All of our male fellows are in another suite in double occupancy rooms. And then on top of that, you also get some meals. We try to kind of cover dinners for you throughout the camp. You will use that meal stipend for breakfast and lunch. Okay. Now I'm about to turn it over to some fellows for questions, but I'm going to go over a couple more little logistic things. So we do have our lives at camp are busy. Okay. You start each day at camp with an 8 o'clock staff morning meeting. This is a 5 to 10 minute, just kind of check in. Is there anything different about today? We do a good word, we do a quick prayer, and we hit it for the day. We welcome our campers. You'll also see that in there are 3 classes. Those classes are what I mentioned earlier, you kind of teaching under a mentor teacher. 2 of those classes you would be on, the other one you would have for planning and preparation time. Also see something else that's called open math time. Open math time is one of my favorite times of the day. It happens 3 times a day. During this open math time, we have what we call the 25 problem challenge. Kids have kind of the freedom to choose which problem they work on, but these are high level math problems. When I say high level, I mean, our fellows will come and they're giving them ahead of time. And they're like, I don't know, I was stumped on this one. I couldn't do it. I have problems with some of them and I know how to do them already. Like I have the answers. So it's amazing to see kids really step up and collaborate and figure out ways and strategies to solve those problems. It's loud, it's noisy, kids are kind of all over, but it's all kind of, you see this momentum of math thinking and problem solving. The last 2 things that I think are of note here are what you see: team time and weekly activities. Both of those are designed for you to build community with your campers. So they are non-instructional. Team time in the morning is really like a check-in. This is where I say you really serve as camp counselor. You have a small group of kids who come to know you as their leader. You kind of pump them up, you get to know them. This is where we check in on their emotions and how they're doing and see if they need anything for the day. And it's also kind of where we build that team camaraderie. So some competition happens, some silliness happens. And then at the end of the day, weekly activities is where we kind of take off our like thinking caps, and they get to select which activity they go to. So some kids choose to go to gym and run off their energy. Some choose to go to arts and crafts and use their creative energy. We have a number of opportunities, and fellows get to lead that. And that's kind of a time for you to take full ownership. Our mentor teachers aren't in there, so you get to kind of try out that leadership on your own with no oversight. Now, the last thing that I'll just note before we turn it over to our fellows panel is Marjorie Lee Brown. Who is she? Why do we name our camp after her? We are honestly honored to name our camp after her. So she was one of the first Black women to get her PhD in math in America, and she's a native Memphian. She recognized that the increasing involvement of Black women in STEM was a systemic problem that needed to be addressed. So she really fought for educational equality, not only for young women, but specifically for young women of color, specifically in STEM fields. So I'm going to give just a moment for you to read that quote from her on the screen, and then we're going to move on to the next slide for our panel. Now that quote there is about Marjorie Lee Brown, but I always like to also kind of share one quote that's from her. She said, "If I had to live my entire life again, I wouldn't do anything different. I love math." Like that's just kind of who she was. That's who she claimed to be. She was no nonsense about it. Like, I'm a math girly and I'm okay with it. So with that, we're going to turn it over. We have two panelists with us today, Tanya and Sigrid. Ladies, are you still here with me?
Yes, hi.
Awesome. Hey, Sig. All right, so I'm going to put some questions on the screen. Also, as they're talking, if you have any questions for our panelists, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. We would love to answer your questions as well. I'm going to turn it over to them for a few moments, and then we will end with a Q&A before we go back to the main room. Okay? So ladies, if you'll start off for me with name, hometown, and college, and then why you chose to do the fellowship.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Sigrid Perkinson. I am from Newport News, Virginia, and at the moment I go to Howard University. And I chose to do the fellowship because my major is in math and my minor is in secondary education. So I want to be a teacher. I want to pursue a career in education. I want to be an educator. And I was just kind of getting on my feet about pursuing that goal of mine when I stumbled upon my handshake opportunity with MTR. And I felt like it was perfect for me to like truly explore and discover if this was something I really wanted to do, because it had combined two of the things I was looking at the most, which were STEM, and working with kids. And so I was like, this is perfect for me. I would love to see what this is about. And I don't regret it at all. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks for being here, Sigrid. We appreciate it.
Of course.
Tanya, are you here too?
Yeah, hi. My name is Tanya. I am from Chicago, but I go to school in UIUC, which is about 3 hours south in Illinois. I chose this fellowship like similarly to Sigrid. I got like a message on Handshake, and I had been looking for something to do over the summer. And this summer was the summer I had been between like three majors. I started off with engineering and then bio and then math. I was not sure what I want to do with my life. And education was always like kind of something like I feel like I could be good at it. And this program really interested me. I really like my personal beliefs align with or personal goals in life align with the beliefs of the program. Like if you know anything about Chicago, you know that it's very similar to like Memphis in the way that there's a lot of economic disparity, and it's reflected in the schools. So it really resonated with me, and that's why I decided to do the program.
Thanks, Tanya. I'm going to put two questions up next, ladies, and I would love it. You can answer both, or you can choose one to answer. So either favorite part of the fellowship, or your greatest challenge during the fellowship. And just of note, before I turn it back over to them, both Sigrid and Tanya will be back with us this summer. So if you choose to apply and are accepted to our program, they would be part of your team. So just kind of fun. We're excited to have them back. So, favorite part or greatest challenge for the fellowship?
Um, so favorite part of the fellowship for me, definitely the kids. That was my first time working with middle school students, and I say this all the time, but I was like kind of scared of them. I'm not gonna lie. I've heard very kind of horror stories about middle school students. So I was very nervous, very apprehensive, but they were amazing. They weren't anything like what I've heard. At the end of the day, they're just kids and they're looking to have fun with you and have a connection with you and learn from you at the end of the day. And they're there to and you're there to like help them trust you and like be on the right path and just help them out in any way that they need it. So that was definitely my favorite part, getting to know the students, getting to know my fellows as well, and kind of exploring the city of Memphis a little bit. I'm looking forward to exploring that more when I come back because I didn't do it as much. Um, but yeah, and then I would say one of the and I really enjoyed making lesson plans. Again, I want to be a teacher and I just love the aspect of it. I get to bring out my creativity when I'm doing it. And it kind of puts into perspective like how you would want your classroom to be ran if being an educator is something that you actually want to do. It puts it into perspective on like things that you like, things you don't like, things that you want to include, everything of that nature. Yeah, and then the greatest challenge for me during the fellowship, um, to be very like transparent, there were a few. One of them was like, I am not a morning person. And I have yet to be a morning person. And our days were really long. We got up really early, we got back really late, and we did it all again. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I don't regret it at all. But it really is just a matter of knowing how to manage your time, knowing how to manage it well, prioritizing what is important, what's not as important. And then like asking for help if you fall behind, like asking your fellows to maybe sit down with you and um or like just, asking anybody for help. Like we're here to help you. So it's like you're never going to be alone in this and yeah, that's how I dealt with it. I asked for help. And I set alarms.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts was also like spending time with the kids. Like you're in the you got like a team like that you're kind of with. It's kind of like homeroom, and it's really nice because it's always like the same for the 3 weeks. And I mean, they're really funny. Like they're hilarious, and like you get to know them like personally and stuff. It's also really like at least for us, like I feel like the other fellows were also very welcoming. Like it was we never had like issues, and it was always like we hung out like even if we didn't need to, which was really cool. Um, I think a challenge for me personally was I'm not like the greatest public speaker. I also don't have I did not have any experience actually like teaching something. So I was very nervous whenever it was like it came to like having to like go through a lesson. But thankfully like the way the program kind of works is that they don't just like, okay, here's the lesson, you're gonna teach it for like the 50 minutes or however long it was. It's like you kind of like start off with like you help the students on the side and then you lead like the warm up and stuff like that, so it builds up so that eventually at the end it's not so overwhelming. And the veteran teachers are amazing. Like they give you feedback every lesson, and it's like written feed we get a lot of written feedback, and I like that is so helpful. um so yeah.
Yeah, that feedback and kind of the process of taking over the classroom is part of the way that we try to emulate the residency. So one of our other big goals, again, I said that we wanted to kind of equip and train people to become STEM educators, and we really would love it if you did that here in Memphis because we're passionate about our city, and that's what MTR exists for. And so we modeled the fellowship after residency. So the same level of training, support, teaching, and kind of hand holding that you're getting as you take over more and more of the classroom is similar to what you would see on a much abbreviated, much quicker scale in the fellowship that you would see in the residency. So thanks for sharing, ladies. All right, next one, answer. Let's go just with what did you learn through the fellowship? You've kind of touched on that, but if you had to kind of sum it up, what would you say was your biggest takeaway?
So I would say one of my biggest takeaways was how to effectively manage a classroom, manage classroom behavior, how to interact with kids, and how to connect with them. I feel like connecting with people in general, I'm really good at that. I'm a yapper. I talk a lot, and so it's easy for me to start up a conversation, continue it, and just follow through with it and get to know somebody. Um, but being in a classroom and being able to like manage behavior, um, or just have very clear instructions, um, knowing how to like they teach you skills that first week that you're there to properly interact and engage your classroom. So I feel like that was the biggest takeaway for me that I could take and use in the future that I still use to this day, that I still think about all the time because it was extremely beneficial. I work in a school now and I still use those things I learned at this fellowship there. Um, and so it's just kind of like those things were invaluable to me. And I'm sure they'll be invaluable to you all. And I learned a lot about myself as well and the way I communicate with people. And it was just overall very exciting and very, um, what's the word? Uh, yeah, just very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like one of the biggest things from camp that has stuck with me was like the phrase kids can learn. I think I was really surprised. I wouldn't say surprised, but it was like a similar situation where like you hear a lot of bad things about middle schoolers, but like the kids were there and they were having fun with like the open math time. They were having like so much fun. They would get really into like the activities that they were doing, and it was really cool to see. It made me feel more like optimistic, and also I feel like that I was kind of scared that I wasn't going to be social enough. Like I'm an introvert and I was kind of scared. Like we've talked about how it's important to like connect with the kids, and I was kind of scared that I was gonna lack that. But I feel like I did a pretty good job. Like even in the classrooms and in the like activities and the teams, it was really it's not that hard to like just talk to like a middle schooler. So I think I learned that about myself as well.
Thanks, Tanya. Yeah, I think that's also pretty common. We had another fellow last year who would say he came in shy and not feeling very confident to be up in front of people, and you would never know it now. Like never know he's gained confidence and is just like killing it in front of people. So I do want to save a little bit of time for questions, but ladies, right before we leave, leave our time together. I would like for you to either describe your fellowship in one word, what would it be and why, or give advice to those considering the fellowship. One of those before we move on to questions.
I'm going to pick the describing the fellowship in one word. I would say for me personally, it's been very cyclical, very well-rounded, um, coming just full circle because I started off like in high school very STEM oriented. deep in it. And then I had like a few moments of self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And I was like, okay, maybe I want to go in a different direction. Maybe I should try other avenues and other things. Just to find myself back in STEM, back in education, and knowing that this is really what I wanted to do. So I really do feel like this program has helped me come into like my full self and be able to explore that more and be very comfortable with what I've decided and the path I've chosen for myself. So um very cyclical, that is my word.
For the last question, I would say my biggest advice is like soak it in as much as you can. I was in a classroom for like observation this semester, and I found myself using a lot of the tools that I learned from camp, and like the even in my classes, there was a lot of like things that I could connect back to what I learned in camp. And so it's just like you're given a lot of resources and mentors, and that's one of the reasons I'm coming back, because I feel like there was I really have no complaints. Like I never felt like I was alone, and I always felt comfortable asking for help. So I would say that's also another thing. If at any point, like during the fellowship, you feel like maybe I need help with this, there's always going to be someone that you can ask.
I love to hear that, Tanya, because that's exactly what we like aim for, is that both your leadership, your mentor teachers, like we want you to be here. We want you to have a great experience, whether that experience draws you back to Memphis or sends you home just a better educator, more confident in what your career path is. Now, before we hop into questions, I do want to just quickly go over the application process. I saw a question about this in the chat, but this is kind of your application timeline. If you're interested, you would complete the online application. Our final deadline is February 11th. If you kind of make it past that first round, then you would be prompted to complete what we call a Spark Hire interview. That is a virtual interview, video interview. And then after that, you would hear from us one way or another. Again, our final deadline is February 11th, but all applicants will know by the week of March 18th at the latest whether or not they are accepted. The written application is not super long. It does have a few short answer questions. You do have to have an unofficial transcript. We understand that none of you are graduates yet, so that unofficial is fine. And then just a recommendation, which is, again, all virtual. They'll get it in their email and submit it that way. Okay. The Spark Hire interview would be sent to you. So at this point, I do want to move into questions. We only have a couple of minutes left. There was one question that I did not type an answer to because I wanted to just explain what is campus like. If you have any other questions, drop them in the chat so that we can get to them. So campus, we actually have kind of two campuses that I would speak to. The one is Centennial Place. It's on the University of Memphis campus. So it's college campus. That's just where you stay. It's a dorm. So that campus is about a 10-ish minute drive from where we have camp and where we host all of our orientation week. That is our camp, and our orientation week is held in a building called the Crosstown Concourse. If you look that up, Crosstown Concourse in Memphis, you can find pictures of it. I'm putting that in the chat. You can kind of find pictures of it. It's a huge old warehouse that's been renovated to have office space, apartments. Our Memphis Teacher Residency is all housed here, as well as the apartments for our residents. You would get a tour of that if you came to visit. And there's also a high school here. The camp itself is hosted at that high school. It's a really cool, like, I wish I went to high school there, to be honest. But it is all very secure. We kind of take up space on two of the floors of the high school. And yeah, it's also in the same building as MTR. So when you go to like from orientation to camp, there's not a lot of transit time. I hope that answers the question. Okay, we need a vehicle. Good question. So we have always operated on a carpool system. We always have fellows who come from across the country and don't drive, who fly. We also have a number of fellows each year who are more local and choose to drive. So we really rely on those people who do drive to help, and we compensate them a little bit to do that. But we find that that has always worked for us. So you would kind of get to camp in the morning and from camp in the afternoon together using a carpool system. Any other questions? They're going to pull us back shortly. What kind of questions are there for open math time? Tanya, Sig, you want to talk to that one?
I can talk about it. I would say it's like a variety. There are some questions because we get the packet before, and there were some questions where I was like, okay, it's this. There are some questions that I to this day did not understand like exactly how to do. So a lot, I would say a lot of it is kind of like some of them are closer to like arithmetic or like looking for patterns, logic questions. It's really like you really have to use your brain. um and so like when it comes to like us kind of helping the students, like we're always like asking them like questions so that they can get to like the answer, but not by telling the answer. So but it's really fun. Like they're fun to do, at least for me.
Yeah, when she says variety, like some of them are more visual. So like place numbers in this triangle so that all the sides add up to the same number. Some of them are more analytical, like they'll be different. So these are from last year, but the ones for this next year will be different, but kind of similar. One of them I think was in between 0 and 1,000, how many times would the digit 8 show up if you wrote out every number? So some of them, like kids, some of them literally write out every single number, and others figure out the strategy, figure out the plan. So yeah, a variety, but they're really fun, I think. I agree with you, Tanya. Good question. What about the science part? So for science, I will say it is a math heavy camp, primarily because of what I said earlier about math skills being one of the things that hinders people from entering STEM fields once they're older. We kind of have made Fridays our science Fridays. So on Fridays, our campers take 3 courses. They do not go to their regular math classes. There's no open math time. We have what's called open STEM time, where we honestly just put out a bunch of like STEM materials and they get to go free. They take a science class, which is a lab. So they do 1 week is chemistry, 1 week is physics, and 1 week is environmental science. And then they also take an engineering class this next year, focuses on electrical engineering. And so they kind of progress in their understanding of electrical engineering over the course of the 3 weeks of camp. We are incorporating an additional opportunity for them to engage with open STEM time throughout the week, because we are trying to kind of increase our ability or their amount of time given to science. Hopefully that answers your question. And then I see one last one. Sig already answered it. Dress code is pretty casual bottoms, and you get STEM camp t-shirts for every day. So they are going to pull us back into the main group, but thank you all so much for coming. Just a reminder, final deadline is February 11th. And if you have any additional questions, you see my email there. Feel free to screenshot it real fast before it disappears. So thanks y'all. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you, Tanya and Sigrid, for taking time out of your day to be here with us. Can't wait to have you in Memphis.
Right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Right. Paige, I'm trying to steal the screen from you, but I think it's gonna let me.
Yep,
Okay.
stop sharing. I'll let you steal it back. Unless, yeah, I guess I could have shared it too.
Oh, no, you're good. Okay. Well, welcome back. I hope that we had a good time in our breakout rooms. I wanted to highlight a few last things before we do our raffle and our closing. As a reminder, we have one more deadline coming up on February 11th. So that's the final day to submit your written application. And afterwards, you would then, if you get to the next round, you would have a video application that would come soon after. And then the fellowship is June 1st through 28th. We do require fellows to be there the whole time. So mark those dates if you're interested in the fellowship, and I hope that you'll apply. Next thing, I've had a lot of questions come up just throughout this process. So I want to make sure I hit some of these like for your information things in case these questions arise through the process. So if you're applying, you do have to have a recommendation. However, you should submit your application before the recommendation is submitted. So you don't have to wait for a professor to submit the form, or it has to be an academic or professional recommendation. So we know that people take a little bit of time to fill those out. Go ahead and submit your application. You'll enter their contact information. We'll send them a form and we'll follow up with you if we need that to be submitted. So don't wait on that to apply. Just submit their info and proceed. On our application website, there is a checklist. It's been confusing people because it doesn't automatically update and we aren't really using that part. So if it says you don't have your transcript or says you don't have a recommendation, don't stress about that. Our staff will reach out to you if you're missing something. And then we have the video Spark Car interview. If you get to the next round, applicants will have about a week, sometimes a little less than a week to complete that. So when you get a notification about that, don't dilly-dally and make sure to get that done. And last but not least, because we have the final deadline coming up, we're going to be waiting to give most offers until after we've been able to process all of the applications. We just have a high volume with only a limited number of spots remaining. So we want to make sure we see the entire pool of candidates before offering. So at the latest, you'll hear back by March 26th from us either way. Okay. All right. That was a lot. All right. MTR, we love to wrap things up. We love to close things up and really get to hear from y'all. So before we end, I want to hear from you guys in the chat box. You can choose one of these things to answer. Okay. What is one thing you either learned today, or a word or phrase that stuck out to you from today's call, or a word or phrase that describes how you're feeling about the fellowship? Okay. So go ahead and enter that. And here we go. Sometimes technology is hard. So go ahead and excited, love it. And I will be sticking around to answer some of these questions as well. I saw that you had a question. Between the first and second step, it varies in time depending on how fast we're able to process them. But it could be a few weeks to a month. All right. Love seeing these responses coming in. And are y'all still seeing my slides, or are you seeing an agenda? Agenda. Okay, let's see. See, this is when technology doesn't help me out. I was trying to pull up our link so I can send y'all the link for our info session. So bear with me for a sec. Technology is fun for me sometimes. I am also, just like Paige, this is my first day back from maternity leave. So bear with me. I'm not on my A game, but I am so glad y'all are here. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to put up a slide, and we very much value getting your feedback. And so I'm also going to type this here. If you can go ahead and open that survey. Oops, I'd send it just to one person, everyone in the meeting. It's a short survey, but if you can give us some feedback and let us know, we would love to hear from you. Okay. We also have a virtual session coming up. So if you would like to learn more, if you enjoyed the panel part of our presentation today, we have a panel coming up next in 2 weeks. And it's entirely just Q&A with panels coming. So we give you a very short overview of MTR and why we're here, and then the rest of it is all panel Q&A time. So that would be great to attend as a follow-up to this session. You can scan these QR codes. Y'all are seeing my screen now. Okay, Cool. You can scan those. I'm also going to send a follow-up email tomorrow with recordings with these links as well. So go ahead and make sure you open that and check that out. Last but not least, I'm going to do a little raffle for us. If you win the raffle, go ahead and type your name or type your email address, excuse me, in the chat box, and I'll send you a follow-up gift card. And if you have questions, you can stick around. But without further ado, I'm going to pull up, hopefully, the wheel of names that I made. Here we go. Sorry, my computer's running a little slow, guys. All right, share. I'm sharing the wrong screen right now, and I know it.
No, I see the wheel of names. We saw it. It just needed to be bigger.
Okay, never mind.
While
Bigger.
Caroline's doing that, for anyone who has done any virtual teaching, Wheel of Names was a very fun thing to do during COVID for kids. So they got to win different things and all that good
Here
stuff.
we are.
Perfect.
Wheel of names. So I'm going to spin it 3 times. Maybe click to spin. Bloop. And again, if you win, thanks for being here. Even if you don't win, we are so glad you took time to be with us. Sydney, congratulations. Go ahead and put your email in the chat. Love seeing those claps and snaps for other people. Love that. I never know where it's going to land. Ramika. All right. And last but not least, we have one more. And again, we're going to stick around if you have any questions. We're so glad you're here. I'm sorry we're a couple minutes over. All right. Thanks for being here. I'll send a follow-up and let us know if you have any feedback or questions. Have a great evening.